Hi guys, welcome back to Howstuffinmycarworks. My name is Jamie, and today I'm going to show you how to replace the front brakes in a 4th generation Mustang GT. Alright, so the next step is to remove the caliper bolts with a socket and a ratchet. Alright, so the next step is I'm going to go ahead and remove this caliper. And you can use a rope or a wire or anything you have to tie it out of the way. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and slide this outer brake pad out. And do the same thing with the inner brake pad. Keep them separate here. If you'll notice here on the side, it gives a measurement of 24.75 millimeters. That's the minimum thickness that the rotor should have. So I'm going to go ahead and use this caliper to measure. Okay, so you can see here that this rotor is measuring at 26.32 millimeters, which means that there's still plenty of material left should this rotor need to be turned. Alright, so we know that there's enough material left. If you do want to turn your rotors, what you're going to need to do is make sure that you take this caliper bracket off. So you're going to see the bolt here, and that's how you're going to be able to remove the bracket. And once you remove this bracket, the rotor will slide right out. Okay, so obviously if the thickness was less than the minimum required, you're going to need to replace the rotor. And you're going to do that by sliding a new one on after removing the old one. And make sure to go ahead and reinstall that bracket and fasten those bolts in the back. Okay, so once you've either turned your rotor or replaced it, you're going to want to make sure to replace your brake hardware. It's always recommended to do so. So you can see what it looks like. So there's a piece here at the top and on the bottom. Alright, so obviously your new brake pads are going to be thicker than the ones that we're replacing. We're going to need to go ahead and use one of the old brake pads to compress the pistons. I'm going to use a caliper tool to do this. And because there's two, might have to move it from side to side here. Alright, and while we're compressing these, it's always a good idea to loosen the cap on the master cylinder, because as we're compressing these pistons, there's fluid that's flowing back into that. Alright, so once the pistons are compressed, we're going to go ahead and remove the caliper tool and the old brake pad. Alright, so it's really important to go ahead and clean the rotor really well as the caliper with brake cleaner. And it's always a good idea to put a pan underneath to catch any of the residue and debris that'll fall down. Alright, so after that, we're going to take the caliper pins, going to clean them with the brake cleaner, and then we're going to apply some caliper lube before reinstalling them, and that's to make sure that the brake pads don't wear unevenly. Alright, and a final piece of advice before installing those new brake pads would be to apply disc brake quiet to the contact points on the caliper, just here, and then to the pistons, and that's going to keep the brakes from making any noise. Alright, so you're going to want to put everything back in reverse order. I'm going to go ahead and include the torque specifications in the video description. so you know that the bolts are tightened correctly. And that's it. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you learned something. Join us next time for another video on How Stuff in My Car Works.